What's up? I'm Jeremy and welcome to Whiff Report. I'm making my predictions on the 2025 postseason. Let's go. Alright, here is the 2025 postseason bracket. Starting with the wild cards all the way to the World Series right here. We have the Detroit Tigers playing the Cleveland Guardians, the Red Sox playing the Yankees. The Mariners and the Toronto Blue Jays have a bye in the AL. For the NL, we have the Reds playing the Dodgers and the Padres playing the Cubs, with the Phillies and the Milwaukee Brewers having byes in the NL. So without further ado, let's get into it. First, we have the Detroit Tigers versus the Cleveland Guardians. And my choice for this will be the Detroit Tigers. So we will put them right there. I chose the Tigers because of that pitching that they have. They have Tariq Skubal, Casey Mize, and I think it's Jack Flaherty pitching for them this series. I think that they will be just fine against the Cleveland Guardians, and they will move past them to play the Mariners. But before we get to that matchup, let's do the Red Sox versus the Yankees. And this one might not be the most popular, but I think the Red Sox will win. On the fact that the Yankees do not know how to play in the playoffs against the Red Sox. I made this choice because I think the Red Sox are a better fundamental team than the Yankees. As we saw last year, the Yankees they're more of a talent-based team, and they aren't based on fundamentals. Put the ball in play, make the Yankees make their own mistakes. That is why I chose the Red Sox to beat them in the AL wildcard. Alright, Tigers versus Mariners. They both have had great seasons. The Detroit Tigers had an amazing start to the season all the way to the very end, where they did have a little bit of a rough patch at the very end, and they ended up falling to the Guardians in the AL East. But overall, they had a great season. The Mariners were good for the pretty much the entire season. They had Cal Raleigh, the big dumper, AL MVP candidate. He is definitely, him and Judge are very close. So I think this will be a close series, probably a 5-game series, but I'm going to move the Mariners up here, and I think the Mariners will beat the Detroit Tigers. Now the Blue Jays versus the Red Sox. This one, I think it won't be as competitive as this Detroit Tigers versus Mariners series, but I do think it will definitely be a little heated and it will get a little messy. But I think with Vladdy at the helm, the Toronto Blue Jays will make it to the ALCS. Alright, ALCS, we have the Seattle Mariners versus the Toronto Blue Jays, which is I would say a pretty unexpected matchup if you were to say that at the very beginning of the year. But Cal Raleigh versus Vlad Jr., two MVP caliber players and great pitching on both sides, especially that Mariners, which is why the Mariners are going to make it to the World Series in 2025. Alright, we have the AL champion, the Seattle Mariners. Now let's move on to the NL to find out who will face them. Alright, we have the Reds versus the Dodgers, and as much as I don't want this to be a blowout, I do think it could be, just with the fact that the Dodgers are the Dodgers. They have Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, just a stacked team. I think they will pass these Reds and make it to the NLDS to face the Phillies. Alright, we have the Padres versus the Cubs. I definitely think this will be a very competitive series. We have Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado, Jake Cronenworth, not Blake Snell, he's on the Dodgers. Yu Darvish on the Padres. And then on the Cubs side, we have Pete Crow Armstrong, a very good young star that will definitely show up, hopefully, and they have Dansby Swanson and Shota Imanaga. But who do I think will win this Cubs versus Padres matchup? I think the Cubs will make it. All right, that was the NL wildcard matchups. We have Dodgers and the Cubs moving on to the NLDS. All right, Dodgers versus Phillies. This one will 100% go to a Game 5. It will be a very highly contested series, but overall, I think the Phillies will take the win. On the fact that the Dodgers pitching has not been very strong as of the very end of the year, mainly. And mainly their bullpen. I think the Dodgers bullpen will probably give up a lot of runs to Bryce Harper and the Phillies in the NLDS. Now, Cubs versus Brewers. As much as the Brewers have been absolutely elite this year and have been playing out of their mind good, I think PCA and the Cubs will pass them and face the Phillies in the NLCS. All right, now time for the NLCS matchup, Cubs versus Phillies. It'll be a fun matchup with PCA versus Bryce Harper. They both have great pitching, great offenses, but I say the Phillies will win this matchup to make it to the World Series to face the Seattle Mariners. All right, time for the 2025 World Series matchup against the Mariners and the Phillies. Who do I think will win the World Series? The Phillies. They will be winning the 2025 World Series against the Mariners. I will say this will go to a Game 6. And who do I think will win the World Series MVP? None other than Bryce Harper. He will win the World Series MVP. He will go off and win his first ring. Well, that was my postseason prediction for the 2025 season. Let me know what you guys think of my prediction. Anything you would change? Who do you think is going to win the World Series? And who's going to win the World Series MVP? Comment down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And I will see you next time. See ya!